contributions. Mr Kruger.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I pay tribute to the Honourable Lady for securing this important debate and for her speech, which tremendously demonstrated her own commitment to this agenda, but also, as she said, she represents a part of London which demonstrates the proud history of this country in welcoming some of the poorest people from around the world to make their home in this country and to make an enormous contribution to our national life. So I pay tribute to her, and I agree with much of what she said. Mr Deputy Speaker, in this crisis, as a country, we have turned inward somewhat. We have looked to our own problems and challenges. And in our own lives, we've discovered our neighbourhoods, we've lived more locally, we've discovered in many ways that we are in fact citizens of somewhere, each of us in our local lives. And yet we are also citizens of the world. And we know, as the Honourable Lady said, that it is the poorest people who are most at risk, most vulnerable to the effects of the global pandemic. And I'm incredibly proud of the record of the UK this year. The government has committed significant sums, £750 million, to the global fight against Covid-19, much of it for the poorest countries in the world. £300 million alone to be spent in the region of Syria this year. And beyond immediate response to the crisis, we have a very proud recent record of contributions to the imperative of building up the global economy and the economies of the poorest countries in the world. And I want to draw attention to a remark made by the World Bank last month, who observed that with the notable exception of the UK, which has been an absolute leader, the contributions by governments have been flat or declining. So they're talking about the contributions that we made of nearly $4 billion to support the poorest economies in the world, more than the US, Japan, France, many other leading countries. So much more can be done, and I recognise many of the points made by the Honourable Lady. But I want to focus on what we here in the UK are doing for refugees. And we still have major responsibilities to fulfil. She mentioned unaccompanied children. I want to quickly make the point. I regret that opposition members persist in pretending that this government is somehow hostile to family reunion for refugee children. It's patently untrue. It would be political madness if it were, of course. But I do observe that making this point, I feel, is irresponsible, as it causes fear and anxiety where none is needed. The government is absolutely committed to creating reciprocal arrangements with the EU to ensure that unaccompanied children can continue to be reunited with their families, and I have confidence that that is what will happen. There is going to be a review of the routes that unaccompanied children can take, which will be presented to Parliament and be accountable to this House. Now, there's another area where I think we do need more progress, and this is the area of refugee resettlement more generally. I hope the House will acknowledge that the UK's record in recent years, simply in terms of the numbers of refugees resettled here, is the best in Europe and one of the best in the world. Now, for understandable reasons, the resettlement programme has been halted this year, and I entirely understand why. It takes time to, the host countries have restrictions on access and on travel, and our local authorities have, they're hard enough pressed as it is. But I do urge the Minister to give the House and Councils an update on when they expect resettlement to restart and whether the new UK resettlement scheme, the global programme, which will replace the system for refugees from the Middle East, whether that will indeed replace it. I know from my own council in Wiltshire, we're very keen to know the plan, and we look forward to clarity. Now, I want to finish with perhaps a more important question, or more significant question than how many refugees that we can receive in this country, which is the question of how we receive them and what sort of help we can give them. As I've said, I think our country is generous, but it's only generous. The government is generous, but it's only as generous as government can be. It can only give out money, and it can give people rights to services. And that's what government does. The refugees get free accommodation, free healthcare, free education, they get their council tax paid, they get the utility bills paid, they get a weekly cash allowance. But that is all that government can do. We can argue they could do more of it, give more cash, but they can't provide more than money. And we need more than money. Human beings need more than money, especially if you're new to a country or to an area. Happily give way.
Thank the Honourable Gentleman for giving way, and whilst I appreciate he probably means well in his contributions, I have to say the characterisation that he is making of the UK system does certainly not chime with the constituents who I see coming through my surgery week in, week out. And in particular, he talks about what this government can do, and all we can do is give cash. Well, I would disagree with that. in the strongest possible terms. In Scotland, and I will come to it in my contribution, we've set up a scheme where Syrian doctors, nurses and health professionals have been able to retrain, come to Scotland and are now at the forefront of fighting the Covid-19 pandemic. So I'm sorry, I do not buy what he's saying. Surely he and his government must recognise, as the Honourable Lady referenced in her speech, so much more can and should be done.
Honourable Lady, for that intervention, and I absolutely agree that there is more that can be done and giving out money, but it is not just the responsibility of government to do that. This is the point I want to make. So, we need more than welfare, we need more than a roof over our heads. Our needs are higher up the hierarchy of needs than that. We need friends, we need culture, we need agency, responsibility, we need a sense of purpose and belonging, and we need work to do, as the Honourable Lady says. And all of this is the responsibility of all of us in society. So I want to end with another tribute to government for a scheme first introduced by my right honourable friend, the member for Maidenhead, when she was at the Home Office, which is the community sponsorship scheme, inspired by the way that refugees in Canada have been resettled over many decades. It's an absolutely inspirational model whereby refugees, individuals and families are received into a community by a local community group, working with the local authority and the public services. And they provide so much more than a house and welfare. They provide English language support, they provide employment and training support. They provide friends, they provide opportunities to access local social networks, faith communities and so on. There are 2 such groups in Wiltshire operating, and they're doing a tremendous job, and they have supported families to properly integrate into our communities in the way that the council on their own would never have been able to do. And we have some, we have a tailor we didn't have before in Wiltshire working away, we have a painter and decorator, we have people working for the council, and we have a whole range of new volunteers making a tremendous contribution to our community. And these are the new Huguenots that the Honourable Lady for Bethnal Green and Bow referenced. They are enriching our county and our country, and they are welcomed by local people. This is the model I think we need much more of, Mr Deputy Speaker. I wish that rather than just to sort of, in addition to the £5,000 a year commitment, we've got these community-sponsored refugees are in addition. I think this should be the basic model by which we receive and welcome refugee families into our country. This is the model, and this is the way we will build a more integrated community and fulfil our obligations to the world. Thank you.